point where we looked at that implementation cost. We understood that we could finance it and spread it out, but due to its complexity, we understood that we would also incur a very large sum of money for internal operations, slowdowns. If we're trying to move all the claims to a different system and we're having to train all our staff in something that's so complex, and in the meantime, we're also having to configure it and test it, that it was just too much risk to bear for the amount of money at risk. In oncology, the margins are slim, and that's because we don't do a lot of service in chemotherapy. The dollar figures are huge, but what drives the dollar figures is the really, really expensive drugs. So when 65% of your revenue on the medical oncology side is just related to the drug cost, and that's a wash. It goes from the insurance company through us back to McKesson. It may look like there's a lot of money pumping through, but there's no margin on that, essentially. It's just going from one vendor to another vendor. And when you're changing systems, having that risk of 1 or 2 or 50 drugs not properly pay and get missed is really, really difficult for an organization, because that means we essentially took the brunt of paying for that drug for that patient. We have drugs that, cost $14,000 per administration on the lower end of the spectrum, and then we have some drugs like Solaris that are up to $100,000, and so you miss that claim, and guess who paid for it? Cartide. So factoring all of that in, and it was just, we didn't want to take the risk on both sides with our internal expenses of switching systems, and then also paying very large implementation fee to get there for the vendor.
Do you recall what those implementation costs were?
I do recall, but I'm not at liberty to say.
Okay, that's fine.
Then Athena would be really mad at me.
Do you, Ed, obviously we weren't really looking for the actual, I don't think, more like categories, things like that, that aren't, dollar specific. Is there anything you can add color to that? Think about, we're trying to help our client understand how to be better. So anything that you would like to share in that vein would be very helpful, that you feel comfortable sharing.
I would say they were 5 times more, 5 to 6 or 7 times more than what Allscripts wanted for implementation. Yeah.
Perfect. That's all we needed. Yeah, for that. Thank you so much. They'll really appreciate that. Ed?
So we can get a little bit more into how do you use data? Do you pull it? Is it real time? Talk about how you use the data.
I guess, can you provide a little bit more context? We have a lot of data running around.
Yeah, do you pull it down from an FTP site? Are you using APIs? Is it real time? Which data? Oh, I thought you were just pull.
They're putting it in.
You're putting it in, but you're probably cross-checking it with payer paths, correct?
So you're talking about like claim data, the 835 and 837?
Yeah.
Yeah, so currently our practice management system generates those files, and then they get uploaded to Relay Health, Healthcare. And then the remit comes back in via SFTP, gets pulled into our practice management system, and continues on. I guess kind of similar to how PayerPath works with Allscripts.
Right. Okay.
Is that a process that everyone's happy with? Would they see it improved?
No, it works. I mean, it's probably a little antiquated, but it's how it works across the industry. So all clearinghouses receive files, and then they generate files and send them back to you. So it's how it works.
Yeah. There's always this talk of driving towards this as real time, right? Or so it's like, you talk to people and they say, on the clinical side, yeah, it'd be nice if we had some faster turnaround time on data, but it is what it is. So